Hello, everyone. We're going to do something a little differently for 7.5. I'm going to have the slides over here, and then I want to take notes. I was going to try writing, but my screen was acting a little goofy, so it looks like I'm just going to have to type notes instead. All right. So my goal is to kind of talk us through it, and then I'm going to take notes on the side, and that can kind of help you if I don't know how you all take notes. Or if you don't take notes at all and you're like Riley and you just sit and chill. But I'm going to kind of go along with you because this is kind of a little complicated. And so I want to make sure we can master how to understand complicated things and break it down easy for us to know. And I got a hair. Okay, there we go. I got the hair off. All right, so we're in Age of Progress and Modernity, 7.5. We're looking at how science, and other intellectual disciplines developed through change over time. We're looking at scientific innovations, technological innovations, but we're really looking more for and through thought. So we're reviewing time. So 7.5, Age of Progress and Modernity. Now, we are seeing four different uh, philosophical thought processes. All right. And once again, kind of Charles Darwin kicks it all off. I don't know if he did it intentionally, but he did. So Charles Darwin and his evolution and natural selection that we talked on 7.4, and everyone's like, oh yeah, we know all that. So he points out he is a very rational way of thinking. So rational thinking, known as rationalism. All right. And so rationalism is I just want to make sure I'm getting everything kind of right. So if I'm bouncing back and forth, my brain is going a million miles an hour. All right. So rationalism, it's the belief that reason and intellect, right, how smart someone is, are someone's source of knowledge. Wow, very difficult kind of, should be very self-explanatory, okay. And that how do you get, so how do you get this knowledge? Well, you do it through reason, and reason alone, okay. You use, and essentially, you use logic and math. All right. And the main person, there's going to be two of them, but the first one we know is Charles. All right. He uses his thought process to figure out evolution and natural selection. Cool. Now, and we're going to just kind of, that will be color, we can make it red. All right. Then we have a second way of thinking. So thinking, I'm just going to say thinking, number one thinking. And now we got number two thinking, and that is positivism. All right. Let's make this blue. All right. So, what is positivism? Well, it's very similar to rationalism, but kind of different. It's that when you have knowledge, it should be derived from empirical evidence and scientific observing. All right. So, once again, here we go. So we see that religion is not the only thing that kind of is against Darwin's rational thinking. All right. So it's making sure that things are provable. All right. That's kind of the name of the game with positivism. We're trying to prove things are right. We're just not thinking because that's what we've been told. The whole point is trying to prove it. All right. That truth can only be found through science and math. All right. So once again, a majority of people are Christian in Europe. Okay. And they're not using their science based off from their religion, right? So a lot of religious stories are not, let's sit down and think how this actually happened. All right. And so positivism really is looking more on the inside than on the outside. And what I mean by that is when they are questioning things, they are looking, how does this actually happen? So for my example I gave you all was like a plant, and they're looking through a microscope, and how's the plant's processes actually working? Well, let's look inside the plant to kind of figure it out. Whereas Christianity is the truths of the world come from the outside, from a higher being, and that is what is producing the outcomes. Okay? So, positivism. And remember, the whole like central doctrine of Christianity, which is like their big pillar, is that Jesus Christ died and then resurrected to atone it for people's sins. And that is a big core belief. Now, if you are a scientist, you're realizing how can someone resurrect, right, and atone for people's sins. And so this is clashing with religion, and that is a main argument on why the church does not like evolution and natural selection, because it's going against the main pillar of faith. All right. So once again, going back to the notes, positivism. All right. So they are emphasizing data, very data driven. All right. It uses the scientific method. All right. And it rejects religious explanations. All right. And so, who are some main people that we know that are positivism? Well, we have our boy Herbert Spencer, who's the one who took Charles Darwin's thing and kind of twisted it up, right? We also see other people that we've heard of before. John Stuart Mill. Remember the utilitarianism guy? Happiness. He's the one who kind of perfected Jeremy Bentham's method, and was also a big advocate for women and wrote The Subjection of Women. All right. There's also this other guy. We're not going to have time to talk about him, but Augusto Clemente. All right. He is also the father of positivism. Okay. Well, you know what? Screw it. We can talk about him. He's essentially the father of positivism. Okay. He's a big fan of this guy. That is, where is it? Right here. He's not in my notes, but this guy, he's essentially like the father of positivism. He loves reading facts and numbers and data, and loves using the scientific method, and he says that all knowledge should be based on empirical evidence and understanding science. All right, so he's kind of the big guy, but also Spencer, he's applying positivism into evolutionary theory, right? And then John Stuart Mill using scientific method to kind of understand his work of utilitarianism. He's trying to use science to back up his theory. All right. Continuing on, positivism is kind of saying there's not one true thing that fits. All right. It's that truth can be different based off perspective. It's relative, right? So if you're looking at this and you're looking at this, your truth is dependent on perspective and it's relative to where you are. Okay. So yeah, what's true for you is not necessarily true for me. Okay. So that's kind of the gist of positivism. I kind of tried to put a little chart here, but I feel like maybe this might be easier, but who knows. All right. So like we said, they love data. They love using the scientific method. The famous people. All right. Mr. Numbers. Let's social Darwinism guy. Right. Let's back up social Darwinism with facts and data, and then let's back up utilitarianism, right, with the scientific method, to have more people follow that method, that philosophy. All right. They also, we didn't really get to talk about this, but they are anti-metaphysics, which is speculation beyond observable facts. They're big. It has to be based off observable facts. All right. Well, based off my timer, we got 12 minutes. So I'm going to pause here, and then I'm going to make part 2. That way, because there's 4 rational, and I think 1 and 2. I think that's good. Number 3 can be green. Maybe I like the color green. Let's see, green. Green. All right. All right. And that is going to be irrational thinking. Or, no, we'll make modernism. We'll do modernism. Thinking modernism. All right. So I'm going to pause, and we're going to do part 2 here in a second.